It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hint Hive, Amplifying Women's Voices. I'm Kelly Hint, Queen Bee of this hive, and today we're diving into a powerful and often overlooked topic, religious trauma and its impact on women. This episode is dedicated to every woman who has felt silenced, shamed, or marginalized by religious institutions. Let's break the silence and reclaim our power, honeybees. So I'm just going to dive right in here. Religion can be a source of comfort and community, but it can also be a source of deep trauma, especially for women. When we talk about religious trauma, we're referring to the psychological harm that can arise from various religious experiences. This can manifest in many ways, including guilt, shame, fear, or even PTSD. For many women, religious trauma begins early. From a young age, we, as women, are often taught to be obedient, pure, and subservient. We're bombarded with messages that our worth is tied to our chastity, that our voices are less important than men's, and that our roles are limited to what religious doctrine prescribes. Now, as you can imagine, these teachings can be deeply damaging. They can erode our self-esteem, they can limit our potential, and leave us feeling disconnected from our true selves. But today, we are here to say enough is enough. It is time to break free from these harmful narratives and reclaim our lives. Now, I am only going to say this once throughout this episode because I don't want to keep qualifying everything and making sure everyone's okay with what I'm saying. So what I want to say is this. I acknowledge this is not all religion. This is not all people's experiences. I'm simply speaking to the women who have experienced religious trauma or believe they have and want to know more about it, or anyone who wants to know more about it. I'm not dogging on your religious beliefs in any way, shape, or form. But I just feel the need to reiterate that your experience is not everybody else's experience, whether good or bad. So let's talk for a moment about the real-life impact of religious trauma. Imagine a young girl growing up in a community where her every move is monitored. She's taught that her body is a source of sin, that her desires are shameful, and that her primary purpose is to serve others. This girl grows up with an internalized sense of unworthiness, constantly questioning her value and suppressing her true self because it's not quite matching up to the doctrine that's being told to her. Fast forward to adulthood, and these early experiences continue to haunt her. She might struggle with self-doubt, anxiety, and depression. She might find it difficult to form healthy relationships or to pursue her dreams. This is the insidious nature of religious trauma. It doesn't just disappear when we leave the church, temple, or mosque. It follows us, lingering in our minds and our hearts. Think for a moment about a young man growing up in the Catholic Church. He has known his entire existence that he is not attracted to women. He is attracted to men. He learns throughout the doctrine that he is an abomination, that his existence is foul. His existence is wrong. He starts thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't be on this earth anymore. I can't force myself to be attracted to women. I can't force myself to be miserable for any more moments in my life. That's it. I'm out. And he commits suicide. I ask those of you who are very strongly religious and who are very tied to the doctrine of your faith, is that what you want? Do you want people who don't match the biblical definitions of good and whole? Do you want them all to kill themselves? I know I certainly don't. It makes me sick. It makes me absolutely sick to my stomach to know, and I know this beyond a shadow of a doubt, given what I do for a living. I know that there are individuals out there who question their ability to be a heterosexual, cisgender person, and they consider taking their own lives because they cannot live up to the expectations of their religious upbringing. I'm sorry, but I'm a mother. I am a sister. I am a wife. I'm a daughter, and I don't want anyone connected to me to take their lives because they have been taught that their existence is an abomination. And so let's talk for just a second about the hypocrisy in some of these religions. It makes me so heartbroken that there are people who follow only pieces and parts of their religious scripture. They take parts that have been misinterpreted and skewed by man and his motivations to control, and the scripture has been turned around to mean something different. I may or may not go into that later on. I don't know. We'll see how heated I get. I'm trying not to get heated on this one. So this person has misinterpreted the Bible and takes one passage out of the Bible. For example, how about man shall not lie with man? And that is what they preach on. That is what they live their lives on, and they spew hatred towards somebody in the LGBTQ plus community. Hatred. Okay. I have read the Bible cover to cover 3 times. Plus, I went to a college, a Christian college, and had to take Old Testament, New Testament, plus a whole bunch of other courses through this religious institution. And nowhere in the Bible does it preach hatred. Not in one place. Not in one place does God or Jesus encourage you to hate another person and make them feel as if they should kill themselves. So that to me is a bit hypocritical. You can't cherry pick from the Bible to use it as a justification to spread your bigotry and hate. By all means, if you believe in your heart of hearts that being gay is wrong, don't engage in homosexual activities. However, you do not get to dictate what other people do with their lives. God gave us free will. If you believe in God, His teachings are that He gave us free will. He does not force us to love Him. He doesn't force us to hate Him. We have our own decisions to make in life, and therefore we own all of the consequences of our decisions, as well as the benefits of our decisions. So maybe religion should back away from the bedroom a little bit and refocus on finding love for humanity. Because there are women over in other countries, as I've said before, I'm here in the United States, over in the Middle East, for example, there are women who have their genitals mutilated because of religious doctrine, radical religious doctrine. So maybe people here in the U.S. who claim to be Christians, can we please focus on the horrors and tragedies that are happening to human beings everywhere instead of getting your panties all wadded up about someone being gay? I just can't with this anymore. The hatred needs to stop. And when it comes from a Christian mouth, let me tell you, I would give anything to have one moment to be the judge, jury, and executioner of your bullcrap, because your hatred is causing other people such distress that they are considering ending their own lives. Now, again, I'm going to reiterate that every human being gets to choose their own spiritual path. I don't care what you want to identify as in your spiritual journey, but if I'm going to give you the freedom to explore your spiritual journey, you better give me the same freedom to do so. You do not get to impose your will on other people. And you know what? It is absolutely fine to have different belief systems. I do not care if you identify as Christian or very specifically Catholic or Muslim or Buddhist. I don't care where you find your sense of spirituality. I care how you impact other people. I care how you treat other people. Your behaviors are what I'm looking at. Your behaviors are what I'm measuring up against what a good person versus a not so fabulous person looks like. There's a Christian hymn out there, and the line in it is, "They will know we are Christians by our love." Well, let me tell you, I'm not seeing a whole lot of Christians out there based on the love part, and that makes me disgusted. If you want to use the Bible as your religious text, then please start following the examples of love that Jesus showed in the Bible. Okay? That's where I think Christians need to get back to those roots. And again, like, I understand that some people have had such a positive experience in their churches, and I love that for you. I love that so much, because I believe that spirituality is so important. It is one of our fundamental human needs, is to figure out that sense of spirituality. And spirituality does not necessarily mean religion. Spirituality is that connection to anything outside ourselves. I find myself having some amazing spiritual experiences when I'm out in nature. I can sit there in wonder, in awe of the beauty of this earth. And it gives me time to reflect on how I believe this started, or how I believe I am connected to the earth and to other people. And the other thing I want to mention here is that we need to stop generalizing all religions, all people, all Christians this, all people who follow Islam are that. Like, that needs to stop. The generalizations need to stop. It's actually one of the reasons why I refuse to identify in any particular religion, because I don't want to be compared to other people who wear that same label. Because again, some of those people are not fabulous. I had one of my patients ask me about my own religious background before. And normally this is not something I would discuss in a therapy session, but it was 100% relevant to the issues that we were working on together. And so I shared a tiny piece of my experience. But I think it would be valuable or interesting to share it more fully here. So, my dad was raised Catholic. He went to Catholic school. My mom was raised Mormon. And so I am told, I obviously can't verify this because I was too little, but I was told that my dad's family wanted to make sure that I was raised Catholic and not Mormon. So when I was a baby, I was baptized Catholic. My parents are divorced, so I saw my dad every other Sunday. And so I would go to church with my grandma because my dad didn't go. So I'd go to the Catholic church with my grandma. And then at one point I went to classes for my first communion. And so I did that. So basically there was a lot of, there was some religious stuff that I did with my grandma. And then I got to be older and we relocated. We moved about 5-6 hours away from where I was currently living. This was in my teen years. And my mom and stepdad started going to the Mormon church because we moved to an area where my mom's sister and her family lived, and they were very active in the Mormon church. And so we all had to go to the Mormon church together. I'm going to skip over all kinds of stuff and just get to the part that I think is important. I ended up feeling forced to get baptized in the Mormon church. It was a lot of pressure from my stepdad. I think he wanted, I don't know, I think he thought maybe it would make my mom happy. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. But basically there were some ultimatums, and me being at that time, I think I was 16. It was kind of like a quid pro quo kind of deal. I wanted to do something. He wanted me to get baptized. So I'm like, okay, I'll get baptized so I can go do the thing. Well, for me, if you have listened to any other episodes, you know that I have sexual trauma in my past. And so the experience of being baptized as a 16-year-old girl in the Mormon church was not great for me. And in all fairness, my parents didn't know about my history, so I do not blame them in any way, shape, or form for any of this. But at the time, again, I haven't followed the Mormon religion, so I don't know if this is accurate anymore, but I had to go into this room where there was a tank. It was a full immersion tank. I had to wear all white. So I had to wear a white dress and white underwear, white bra. And I had to get in the water with a 19-year-old man. I was 16, and I had very dark hair, like almost black hair. And at that time, not to get TMI here, but I'm going to have to, back in those days, women weren't shaving off all their pubic hair, okay? So I had, as a 16-year-old girl, I was terrified of getting in the water in all white because I didn't know what was going to show through. And so, again, 16 years old, I'm already freaking out about my body. So I go into the water with this boy who was also dressed. He had to also be dressed in all white. And it was just the two of us in there, and he had to fully dunk me under the water. And I came up out of the water, and I was humiliated, and I was like covering my chest and like turning away because I was embarrassed that maybe he could see my breasts through the white clothing, or that my pubic hair was showing through. So that was entirely uncomfortable and awful. And so I don't know how long we ended up going to that church. And again, if just to reiterate, the reason why it was so humiliating for me was obviously the body image issues and the embarrassment, but also it made me incredibly uncomfortable to be that close and that vulnerable, my body being so vulnerable to a man. And of course, he hugged me afterwards and we're soaking wet. And that was just, it was very traumatic for me. But again, I swallowed it and suffered in silence because nobody knew about the things that had happened to me. So then I grow up, I'm an adult. By that time, like I had walked away from all religion because I thought it was ridiculous, because some of the stuff that was taught was just unbelievable and the hypocrisy was disgusting. And then I became a mom. And my kids started growing up and they started asking me about God. And so we started trying out different churches. We went to the Catholic Church. And it was even like when I was a kid, I didn't mind going to the Catholic Church because whatever, we got to sing and stuff like that. And it was nothing horrific. But this Catholic Church that I tried to bring my kids to, it felt like really culty and old school. And my husband and I and my kids, we were uncomfortable. So we stopped going there and we shopped around for a while. And we eventually found a non-denominational Bible church to go to. And it was great. For a while, it was really great until it wasn't. Until I started having what we call here in the biz cognitive dissonance. I was learning that who I was wrong. I was not a woman of the Bible. We learned about all these women in the Bible who were subservient and meek and quiet, and they obeyed their men and they served their men. And guess what? I tried to be that person. I tried so hard to be that person. And every freaking day of my life in that church was hell, because every day I was being told through the message that who I am is wrong. The fundamentals of who I am as a human being are wrong. And we eventually stopped going to that church, especially when we started hearing sermons on how being gay is so wrong. My daughter at the time, one of her best friends was a gay male. He was a boy at the time. They were young. And he hadn't come out or anything, but we knew, and he eventually came out to us. And I just remember sitting in church one day thinking, I don't want my daughter to look at her best friend as an abomination. So we stopped going. But also, like, I was having all of my own frustrations because if any of you have heard me get passionate in any of my past episodes, I'm a very outspoken, assertive woman. And that wasn't valued in a religious context, in any of the religious contexts that I had been exposed to up to that point. But there was something in my gut. I didn't want to walk away from religion because yes, I wanted to walk away from religion. I didn't want to walk away from spirituality because I felt a connectedness to something outside myself. And I'm humble enough to know that what I may be feeling is not something that other people feel, and I'm okay with that. And I don't judge people for that at all. I'm not going to judge people for their path. But ultimately, the thought process of certain religious doctrine really damaged me. And it actually caused some problems in my marriage because of me. It was all me. It wasn't my husband at this point. I was trying so hard to be someone that I wasn't, and it just made me so miserable. And it played out in my marriage. And finally, when my husband and I talked about all this, he's like, I'm not looking for Ruth from the Bible. I'm not looking for a passive, subservient woman. That's not who I married. I want a partner. I want an equal partner. And let me tell you, that was the best thing he could have said to me, because that's who I was. I don't want to be superior to a man. I want to be equal. And so thankfully, he and I are matched up very well. Now, if you ladies listening, if you are a woman who wants to be subservient to a man, make sure you find a man who wants to be your leader. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't let anyone tell you that there's anything wrong with it. There's only something wrong with it when you tell me that that's what I have to do too. When you tell someone else that that's what they have to do too. Let people figure this out on their own. And I encourage anyone listening, you don't have to subscribe to something that you don't believe in. But I encourage you to figure it out on your own. Get out there and explore. Don't do what I did. I shut everything off. I shut my heart down. I shut everything off. I didn't want to let anyone or anything in because of all these things that were so harmful that were being said to me. But thankfully, I opened back up and started exploring things on my terms. And now I know I wouldn't consider what I went through to be religious trauma, but that's only me. Because everybody's sense of trauma is different. What is traumatic for me is not traumatic for others. I think because of the sexual trauma that I have in my history, I have a different measure of my own personal trauma. But for another woman, what I went through may have been very traumatic. It was awful for me. It was like it reinforced some horrible, horrible ideas and caused tons of low self-esteem and a lot of issues sexually even because of some of the teachings around sex. But other people may consider that traumatic. I don't consider it traumatic for me. But there are other traumas within religion, like sexual assault, that happens to both males and females in the Catholic Church, in the Mormon Church, in the Muslim community. There are tons of other religious traumas. So I don't want to take away from anyone's. I don't want to minimize or maximize anyone's, because if you feel it as trauma, it was trauma. But here's the good news. Healing is possible. We can unlearn these harmful beliefs and reclaim our power. And it starts with acknowledging the trauma and giving ourselves permission to feel and process our pain. So, how do we begin to heal from religious trauma? Let's talk a little bit about that. The first step is to acknowledge your trauma. You've got to recognize and name your experiences as traumatic. This can be incredibly validating and can help you to begin to process your feelings. And then find a therapist who specializes in religious trauma, or join a support group where you can share your experiences with others who understand. Community is so crucial in the healing process. And then educate yourself. Learn about religious trauma and its effects. Knowledge is power, and understanding the dynamics at play can help you see that the problem lies with the institution, not with you. And then reclaim your body. So many women experience a disconnect from their bodies due to religious teachings. Reconnect with your body through activities that bring you joy and peace, whether it's yoga or dancing or just taking a walk in nature. This was something that I had to do. Because again, like I said, there were issues sexually for me that were intertwined with religious doctrine. And another thing, you've got to challenge those negative beliefs. Start to question and dismantle the harmful beliefs that have been internalized. Replace them with empowering affirmations that reflect your true worth and potential. And we all know I love this word, set boundaries. Learn to say no to situations and people that trigger your trauma. Your mental health is a priority, and it's okay to protect yourself from further harm. And then this last piece here, this was the best part of my journey. Explore spirituality on your own terms. If spirituality is important to you, find ways to connect with it that feels authentic and empowering. This could mean exploring different religious traditions, creating your own rituals, or embracing a secular form of spirituality. It does not have to be written and prescribed to you. Explore it. Get out there. Find connection to something outside yourself, because I'm telling you, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I know healing from religious trauma is a journey, and it's one that requires courage, resilience, and self-compassion. But remember, you are not alone. There is a community of women who have walked this path and who are ready to support you every step of the way. Empowerment comes from reclaiming your voice, your body, and your life. It's about saying, I deserve to be happy, to be whole, and to live free from shame and fear. You are worthy of love, respect, and joy. And before we wrap up, I just want to share some resources that may be helpful on your healing journey. There are a couple books that were recommended to me at one point. I will admit that I haven't read them, but I wanted to mention them in case it's something that you're interested in reading. So there's one called Leaving the Fold by Marlene Winnell. And another one is The Dance of the Dissident Daughter by Sue Monk Kidd. And I will make sure that these are also in the episode description. There's also online communities that are great. There's the Religious Trauma Institute. There's the ex-evangelical groups on social media. And then therapists. Therapists are great resources. You can even look for therapists who specialize in religious trauma or spiritual abuse. Websites like Psychology Today can help you find a match. I recently came across a pastor on TikTok who validated all of this for me. It was so freeing and so wonderful. And I am actually going to look that up real quick and let you know his name. Okay, so this pastor's name is Jeremy. His username on TikTok is @skeptic.pastor. He also has a YouTube channel, and he actually does an awful lot of education, and he has the means to back it up. He's gone to seminary school a couple times. He's studied an awful lot of Hebrew and other languages that have been involved in translations of the Bible. So he is a good resource to find more information on. So definitely check him out if you have questions on some specific things in the Bible. I think you'll find him to be very helpful. Ladies, It is time to take back our power. Religious trauma is real, but so is our strength and resilience. Together, we can heal, grow, and create lives filled with joy and fulfillment. Thank you, as always, for joining me on this episode of the Hint Hive, Amplifying Women's Voices. If you found this episode helpful, please consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And remember, your voice matters, your story matters, and you matter. And to further smash the stigma, I encourage all of you listening who can relate to this topic to share your story over at the Hint Hive Podcast Facebook group. The link is right in the description. Or if that's too intimidating to you, text or email me your story anonymously, and I'll share it in a future episode if that's what you wish. Come on, ladies, the Hive is here to support you. Use your resources. And until next time, stay strong, stay empowered, and keep shining like the beautiful bees that you are. This podcast is powered by Kelly Hint Empowerment Coaching, as well as Kelly M. Hint LMHC and The Cranky Counselor. To find out more about coaching services, head over to CoachKellyHint.com. If you'd like to know more about the psychotherapy services I offer to individuals within the state of New York, you can check out KellyMHint.com. And if you'd like to learn more about aromatherapy, you can check out TheCrankyCounselor.com.